Guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope all is going good. Now, today we have an immigration debate between Nina and Belinda. So they're going to be talking about the pros and cons of immigration. If you ask me, like I've stated many times on this channel previously, I've said that immigration is a good thing, but it needs to be controlled immigration. It can't just be mass illegal immigration that's happening right now, where a lot of people interpret that as an invasion. It needs to be controlled. You know, every country, like I've said many times, has some sort of immigration model implemented in its system, but it needs to be smart and strategic. It can't just be what we're seeing in the West, it seems. So yeah, but anyway, guys, let's get straight into this debate.
Nobody wants an open borders policy. Everybody understands that. But without immigration, this country could not function. Could not function. If you look at the National Health Service, that is, if you're unlucky enough to have to go to hospital or have treatment, you only have to look around you and see how many nurses, how many doctors, how many social care workers are not originally from this country. We desperately need them. If you look at agriculture, where post-Brexit, vegetables and fruit were rotting on the trees and in the fields. We had nobody to pick them. And that's because our own labour force is not working. We've got to this ridiculous stage where I think the Times actually put it in a very sort of easy to understand fashion, that if you look at Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people, a Wembley Stadium full of people goes on benefits every 45 days in this country. That's 8 times a year. And so that's a terrible thing. And we should get people out of their homes, off their sofas, studying their fingernails and get them working. But in the meantime, we have to have migration. We have to have filling. Plus, there are all sorts of other benefits. It's been worked out that actually migrants, if they come to this country, say in their mid-20s, and then have a full working life and pay their taxes and do all of that, they actually add more financially to this country than a native-born Brit, because they haven't had to pay out for education, all of that. But also the tax receipts are higher, and in fact they add more to the GDP than the average British worker does.
Belinda, what are your thoughts on this?
Just to her first point about this country not being able to cope without immigration and that more people need to come in to fill certain vacancies, I do believe that the British people can get these roles done. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certain roles of expertise that you might need to, outsource to people from another country that have high levels of expertise or specialize in certain fields, 110%. And I believe that the UK should be open to benefit from what they have to bring to the United Kingdom. But in terms of like nurses and things like that, I believe that people in the United Kingdom, like British people, can do these work, can do this labour.
Listen, I'm a big supporter of smart immigration, under 100,000 a year, highly skilled workers who can financially support themselves and do not depend on the British taxpayer to support them financially. Smart immigration where the British government invests in their own domestic workforce first, rather than stripping poorer countries of their health staff, which I think is quite immoral, quite frankly, and stripping poorer countries of their entire, young workforce that they can't develop as quickly as they could. There is a huge problem with this exodus of the skilled workers leaving poorer countries going to rich ones, and it has been massively negative. Mass immigration on this country has been forced on the people without consent, against democratic instruction. So the damage to the ballot box is amazing. The culture shift, social cohesion. There was once a time we had all the wonderful integration and slow-moving immigration into this country, so we had a chance to have that brotherhood. And there have been great success stories. You think of the wonderful, Mo Farah and, Frank Bruno, descendants of immigrants. We are very lucky to have them, but the reckless immigration policies we've had at the moment have been one of the greatest betrayals to the British country in my lifetime.
Well, go to Andrew in Sussex. What do you think?
Yes, I would like to say that my father came here in the early 60s and he got straight into working hard to produce a really good input into this UK government. And after that, I'm second generation. I studied and I began and I started a business and I employed 15 people and I paid into the government's, tax system and everything. And I'm proud of what I've done. And I'm second generation.
Absolutely.
And, it depends on if you take your opportunities when they come to you. I think that, somebody who's coming as, through the immigration, legally, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you take your opportunities, you can actually add to what the government and what the British people are trying to do. And I think that we're looking at this in the wrong way. We're just looking and, in a negative way. We need to be positive. And if people want to come here to add to what the Britain is doing, I think that's a good thing.
But I completely agree with you in terms of people coming over here, contributing, working, amazing. There's no problem with that. The problem is the numbers, the swell of people in such a short amount of time, and the failure of the government to provide the infrastructure or to provide integration plans or to take any care at all about how such huge numbers are impacting the people already here. I think that's what's making people very angry. There's just no plan. The hospital spaces, the prison spaces, our country is bursting from the numbers. We are actually only a very small island compared to a lot of countries in Europe, and we just cannot take the numbers. So I do think there is a huge amount of support for cutting. 431,000 Labour's celebrating. That's a city the size of Bristol every year. Only 271,000 houses are being built. There's too many people.
Don't forget that since Brexit, the Tory government thereafter, they quadrupled.
Absolutely. That's why they lost the election.
But also Brexit. The year in 2019, how many people arrived by boat? Do you know that?
Well, across Europe, the numbers have been very similar.
No. In that year, 2019, before Brexit,
very few.
The number of boat people that arrived were 1,800.
Yeah, same with Italy, same with France.
So if you voted for Brexit, you reap what you sow.
That's
frankly.
not why has Italy and France got a massive illegal immigration problem?
Because they're closer to where the migrants are coming from.
That is why there is a rise of the right across Europe.
I know there's a rise of the right across Europe, and I know, and it's a global problem. Will continue to be a global problem.
As long as immigration is ignored.
You cannot say that what's happening in this country is down necessarily to the global problem, which hasn't just started since 2019. The global problem has existed for decades. So Brexit has really affected us. And then the Tory government, Boris Johnson, you can blame him. If you voted for Boris and you voted for Brexit,
I'm really sorry, I have to come in here because this is just peddling. I'm really sorry, but this is just not true at all.
This is absolutely true.
Brexit gave the government the gift to control borders. They took that gift, they flushed it down the loo, and they decided to open the borders up. That is on the Conservative government. Nothing to do with
Boris
Brexit.
Johnson. It is to do with Brexit.
It isn't. Anyway, either way, we're not going to talk about Brexit.
We don't have the relationship with Europe that we had before.
The Dublin Agreement's dead in the water. Nothing
to do with the Dublin Agreement.
Why is every country suffering from the same
Andrew, let me jump in. Thank you so much for your call, and you raise a very good point. There's lots to celebrate when it comes to migrants and what they give us. Jean in London, what are your thoughts of this? Is migration good or bad for Britain?
A very quick response to what that pro-immigration woman was saying about it's your fault for voting Brexit. I believe when the people voted for Brexit, they wasn't expecting what the Conservatives delivered on what's happening now. They wanted they were sold on taking control of law, UK border, UK money. That's what they were sold on, and that's what they wanted to see. They wanted to see numbers come down. They didn't want to see this. This has just skyrocketed even after 2016. So what she's saying about, Brexit voters, you only have yourself to blame. This isn't how it was sold to the people in the UK at the time. They thought that this was a deal, like she said, this was a deal that the government are going to use and going to implement effective policies to ensure that UK is in a better position. But of course, the Conservative Party have just messed that up and thrown it in the water. 110%. Labour aren't doing any better. But that's what the people are voting for at the time. So it's not, Brexit voters, it's your fault. No. It's got nothing to do with that. They did not vote for this carnage that's happening right now. So UK is being sold, by the globalist elite, and that's what we're seeing now. It has nothing to do with Brexit voters. That's just my take on it.
Let's move on to John in Birmingham. Tell me, what do you think?
I know how to solve this problem within one day.
Oh, go on then.
Morning. Oh, by the way, sorry. Good morning to all you lovely ladies.
Good morning.
Tell me, go on, one day solution we've got here.
Sorry, say that again.
What's your one day solution?
Right, basically, the French can't wait when they jump on the boats because they've seen it on the news the other day. The British are paying for a beach buggy to be told all the way along. One police officer, and he ignored, and next thing you know, there was a boat full of people. It's quite obvious. You get the British Army, a couple of regiments, put them along all the borders, they find the boats, burn the boats. No boats, no more coming over. It's simple as that. The French can't wait to get rid of them. Right, which I understand.
John, let me just interrupt you, because what you're speaking about here is illegal immigrants, and actually we're speaking about immigrants that come through the sort of the correct channels. So that's just like, you know, a very small proportion of what's happening. So thank you so much for your call. But
good afternoon, ladies.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Seems to be a lot of gentlemen phoning in on this policy, isn't there? Right. I would agree with quite a lot of them, really, is that what they've said so far. But immigration and migration has to be balanced, as we are only a small country. And yes, we want quality people coming in with some good skills. But we can't overdo that when there's no houses for them to live in. And if we build houses, where do we put it? They'll be on land that the farmers use in the end, and then we'll be buying off foreigners to bring our food in. So we've got to balance our farming and our hospitals. Everything must be balanced. Nobody's questioning how much room have we got in the UK in the next 100 years.
Do you think that's a good point?
Well, I agree with that, but then we do need to have a cultural refreshment. If we were just plain English, or plain Scots, or plain Welsh, or plain...
Why does that have to be a bad thing?
No, because it's a match. It's not a bad thing, but it's a better thing to have a cultural diversity. I mean, we would still be eating really boring food, frankly, if we were just...
Always comes down to food.
It comes down to food. But if you look at the sort of the real positive advantages of refreshing and new people coming in and new ideas and new culture.
Like blasphemy laws, like sectarian politics.
No, it's not.
It has been
talking about
reckless.
that.
There has been amazing immigration from amazing, but there has been serious
I know
issues
nothing
in
and
this
care little
country.
for football, but more than half of the England football squad can claim nationality in another country. So that's think about the music. Look at sort of like Dua Lipa, Rita. These are people who have come into our country.
I'm going to jump in again because I can feel you two are just gearing up for the next round of talks.
Very quick, one point before I close out the segment. I do believe you must talk about illegal immigration when you're talking about immigration. You can't just say legal routes we're talking about, and you know, the majority of people who voted in the local election for reform were voting based off of, you know, the boats arriving on British shores. So you can't just say, oh, we're talking legal routes without talking about the illegal routes. You know, it's all one. You need to talk about legal, you know, immigration and illegal immigration, because a lot of people are very much concerned with illegal immigration, and they're not happy about this. So you can't just make it about legal routes. You need to talk about illegal as well. So yeah, but anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.